Now that we've edited and tweaked the main foundation of our sequence, we'll want to continue to improve it, which now means that we're going to start adding B-roll to help tell our story. In addition to providing supplemental visuals, B-roll will function to help cover up all of these jump cuts that look like this.
Fabulous pets. So at that point,
All right, and we'll accomplish this by setting up 3-point edits using the overwrite command. So I'm going to come to the beginning here, and what I want to do is start off with some shots of greyhound racing right before Barbara begins talking. So I'll zoom in a little bit, plus, and this is going to be found here in the stock footage bin. By the way, to make this a little bit easier so you didn't have to go rooting through all of the bins within assets up here, I've taken the first few shots that we'll be using and put them in the 4.7 bin and broken them out a little bit. So we'll start in stock footage, and I'll load this clip in the source monitor, and I'll play it. This is just some stock footage, very low res, but we're going to use this until we get the high res version. And it's just of a greyhound race, and I'll just scrub through this. You can see that it sort of zooms out at the end there. All right, so not very much, but it's going to open up our documentary. And I think for the first bit, I want to have the greyhounds come out of the gate right there. Okay, so I'll mark an in here, and I'll go forward with L, and I'll mark an out on the fly when I feel I want the shot to end. About right there, I think. And then we'll edit that in. I could just drag and drop quite easily, but I want to stress the keyboard, so let's set this up. I have V1 from the source patched to V2 in the timeline, which is correct. If yours is not, if yours is patched down to V1, you just need to make sure to drag up to V2, and then I'm just going to turn everything else off. So we've got a proper video patch here on V2. And we've done a lot of splicing in this chapter, and I want to show you what happens if you actually just splice this in. So I'll press comma to splice. And you can see what happened. It moved everything down, okay? And that's because I have sync locks on. So this is not what we want. I'll undo that, Command Z. I'll show you that if I do turn my sync locks off and then splice, I'll press comma, it does work as I would intend, but this isn't what you want to do every time. So I'll turn sync locks back on, and instead we're going to use the overwrite command. It's this on-screen button here or the period key, all right? So whenever you're working with B-roll, you're almost always going to be overwriting. All right, so I'll press period, and there we go. All right, I'm going to go downstream in this source clip and find another part of this. I think right as they round the turn is where I want to start this. And rather than mark an out point in my source, what I'm going to do is mark an out point in my timeline because I want to cover up this jump cut right here, but I do want to cut to Barbara as soon as possible after that. So I'm going to maybe mark an out right here, okay? And I'll mark an in. Let's see, do we want to have it right here at the end, or do we want to have it come in before? Let me just see this.
It's controversial because many believe...
I think I'm going to put an in point right here. All right, so this overwrite edit is going to cover up the very last part of the clip that we just laid in, and it's going to go to right here. We know that this is 4 seconds and 16 frames, so all this is going to do is take this in point and count forward 4 seconds and 16 frames. All right, so I'll press period, and you can see that that was overwritten in. And I'm going to watch it.
Because many believe that the greyhounds aren't treated very well. It's a sport that's all about the...
All right, I think that was pretty good. If I want to tweak it at all, I always have the option of coming in with my traditional trim tool, grabbing the edge and trimming in or out as I like. Okay, I'm going to continue playing, and let's see where we want B-roll to come in next.
It's a sport that's all about the gambling, and the dogs tend to be a byproduct of...
All right, right here where she's talking about the unfortunate situation of the dogs, I'm going to cut to some still images, okay? And I have some in my images bin, in my 4.7 bin, so I'll twirl that down. And we have 3 images in here that we're going to place over this part of the sequence. If I load one of these, I think I'm going to start with this second one here. You can see that by default, it starts out as being 12 seconds long. And I think we probably want something more like 2 seconds long, so 3 2-second image clips in a row. So I'm going to set my in and out points in the timeline of 2 seconds each to make this easy. So I'm going to come back here and let's find where we want the first one to go.
And the dog...
About right there. And to go forward 2 seconds, I can use my numeric keypad. I can just type +200 and enter, and then I'll mark my out point. And you can see that this is actually 2 seconds in 1 frame, so I could back up 1 if I needed to, but I'm fine here. and I'll overwrite this in. So I'm just going to select it. I don't have to place any in or out points here because this is a still image. It doesn't move. And I'll press period, and we've got the first one in, and I'll make my in point, and then +200, and enter, and there's my out point, and I'm going to go to this image here and overwrite, and then finally this one here. Again, we'll do in point, and then +200, and out point, and edit that in with an overwrite. I'll press period. Okay, now if you want to clear your monitor, you can just come up to this menu here and choose Close for the current image or Close All, and that will empty your source monitor. All right, so now let's take a look at these. As I park on each of these, you'll see that the image resolution is actually a lot larger than my video resolution, so we're only seeing a part of this image, okay? Later on, we'll add some animation, so we'll have some pans and zooms over these images. Right now, I'm not going to worry about that, but what I am going to do is select it and then right-click and choose Set to Frame Size. Not Scale to Frame Size. Set to Frame Size will resize the image, but we'll still be able to use all of the pixels within the image when we do our pans and zooms. So I'll do actually both of these at the same time. Right-click and Set to Frame Size. So now we see all of the images within the frame, and then later on we can manipulate that with some animation. I'm going to come now to this gap. And I want to put sort of a montage of several dog noses over here. We'll have kind of the music come up, we'll have a break in dialogue, and I think this will serve to sort of humanize the dogs a little bit more. So I'll zoom in here, and I'll come over to my dog footage, and I have these dog nose shots. I'll go ahead and just show you these. So they come up and sniff the camera. For these, I probably will want to mark an in and an out in the source because we want a very specific moment. We don't want to determine the duration in the timeline and just have this cut off. So I'll go ahead and mark an in and an out here, and I'll overwrite that in. So I'll press period, and let's go on to the next one, and in and out, and period, and one more. And this one has audio, but I don't have audio turned on. So make sure that when you're doing an overwrite edit, it is a video to video and we don't have audio participating in this. All right, so I'll find this. In and out and period. And I'll just play over this to see if it's working.
Disposed of. There once was a time up in.
And we'll probably need to just extend this a little bit more, or we can actually cut to the fourth shot. Like so. I'll shift drag back and press period, and we've got it. All right, so we start with two longer ones and then we have two shorter ones. Maybe it'll work, or maybe we have to do some trimming. We'll definitely discuss the best ways to do that in Chapter 5. All right, so I'll keep going on down the line in this way. To access the rest of the B-roll, if you'd like to keep going, again, just come up to Assets, and you've got a whole lot to work with in all of these various bins, in B-roll, in images, and so on. And so just listen to what's being said. Find good shots to accompany the interviews. So try out a lot of things. Feel free to add shots, move them around, remove them, trim them. You should have most of the basic skills now to get what you want where you want it. Okay? I have a sequence where I've gone through and added all of the B-roll right here in the 4.7 bin. So feel free to take a look at that if you like.